You're listening to Procurement 6, the weekly podcast from the team at Art of Procurement that summarizes this week in procurement in just 6 short segments.
Hi there, I'm Helen Mackenzie, and today is Friday, March 4th, 2022.
6.
Welcome to this week's Procurement 6. This week's episode is proudly sponsored by Zip Intake to Procure. Zip is the world's leading intake to procure solution, one place for employees to initiate a purchase or vendor request. We're also delighted to be partnering with Zip on a research paper on the all-important topic of employee experience during the intake to procure process. Now, their experience during the process often defines their perception of the role of procurement, either as bureaucratic gatekeeper or enabler of business strategy. So, tell us what you think. Does employee experience really matter to procurement? Head on over to artofprocurement.com/experience survey to give us your thoughts.
5.
This week on the Art of Procurement podcast, Phil had a conversation with Dr. Ferhat Ayus and Lucas Wara about digital procurement ecosystems. It's a really interesting topic and there's a lot of debate going on about it in our community. So let's start at the beginning and hear from Lucas about the idea of procurement ecosystems and platforms and where that fits into a technology stack.
Originally, everyone had this idea of one platform fits it all. You did sourcing, contracting, P2P, everything was managed by one specific platform. But how Ferhat said, things are changing and maybe also data is more available now and needs of users are changing as well. So we see with this ecosystem approach where you maybe plug together best of breed solutions which have a clear focus on one specific niche, can quickly enable the value driven by this new way of working together. And with that, also one clear demand is, or one clear stated need from the market is coming, and this is usability and user friendliness. And I think what's for me there very, very obvious is that push to kind of consumerization of B2B software. And if we look at B2B tools, also again, historically, they're clunky, it's hard to use, complex, and you need specialists who are basically able to use that kind of software. But now with these new technologies, it's going into the direction that you actually want to have, again, same user experiences as we are used to B2C. Let's take Google Maps as an example, right? I really love that one because you say to Google Maps, you want to go from A to B and you get 5 options in a matter of seconds. We could think of that as well in sourcing, right? You want to buy this and this materials, you have 5 options and the tool provides you with these opportunities.
Thanks, Lucas, for that great explanation of what procurement ecosystems can offer. And because the topic is so top of mind at the moment, it's something we're going to be discussing in sessions at Aop Digital Outcomes next week. You can listen to the entire podcast at artofprocurement.com/podcast.
4.
Tech has brought us lots of data, so becoming data-driven should be easy, right? Not so. According to an article in the Harvard Business Review, becoming a data-driven organisation is hard. They report, in a recent survey, 91.9% of executives cite cultural obstacles as the greatest barrier to becoming data-driven. So it's not a technology issue, it's a people challenge. Okay, so we have plenty of data in procurement. How can we help? At a recent AOP Live, we had lots of questions about data and when we need to share. And the conclusion was that we should be fostering a spirit of data generosity for strategic gain. Our speakers shared the key points we need to bear in mind when we're sharing data. Firstly, make sure discussions are fact-based and that keeps everybody focused on outcomes. Then, remember only to share the data that needs to be shared, at least with suppliers. And finally, the whole corporate culture has to align around supporting the sharing of data. And that brings us right back to where we started with cultural change. Check out the post and the AOP Live recording to find out more.
This is Procurement 6 from Art of Procurement. To get notified every time an episode is published, go to artofprocurement.com/subscribe. 3.
With changes to working practices due to the pandemic still in place, it's likely that new ways of working will emerge for procurement. In a recent McKinsey survey, procurement executives reported 2 priorities relating to people. Here's what they said. First of all, they talked about the need to enable remote working models by transforming to a future-ready operating model. Procurement organisations that can reimagine their operating model across 6 enablers: process, digital, data, organisation, governance, capabilities and culture will be best equipped to realise improved employee morale and productivity in the post-pandemic environment. And the second priority they raised was helping employees adapt to new working models by reinvigorating both core and new capabilities. The survey found that 86% of procurement leaders observe capability gaps in their procurement process. This finding suggests that core capabilities are likely to need to be reinforced through measures such as better coordination with business units to drive procurement efforts whilst teams are working remotely. New processes might also be needed, such as for embedding joint innovation programs with strategic suppliers. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about the disruptive imperatives that are set to define procurement's digital destiny from McKinsey's Johan Raunig next week at Aop Digital Outcomes.
2.
Following another week of global geopolitical uncertainty, cybersecurity is high on the agenda, with a reported increase of 800% in cyber attacks. Forbes carried a piece this week advising that governments across the world have issued guidance recommending that organisations firstly patch internet-facing and business-critical software, also prepare for ransomware and or data destruction, thirdly, be prepared to respond quickly, and finally, lock down your network. Bloomberg reports that a number of organisations are already experiencing attacks, including Expeditors International and Toyota. It's clear that managing risk is as important as ever it was for procurement right now. Check out the resources at artofprocurement.com.
1.
Are you ready for Aop Digital Outcomes? It's a brand new digital conference from Art of Procurement that will take place between March 8th and 10th, 2022. Each day for 2 hours a day, we're going to be taking a different approach to discussing procurement transformation and focusing on what matters most, the outcomes that digital transformations deliver. Each day is a different theme with live panels, fireside chats, discussions and debates, and each session will give you a unique perspective on how procurement can deliver improved digital outcomes. Our day 1 theme is strategy, where our guests will be discussing thought-provoking topics like experiential procurement ecosystems and debate whether AI can elevate procurement's focus to the strategic. On day 2, we're all about speed, and we'll consider procurement's imperatives for disruption and how we can power up those digital outcomes through accelerated execution. On our final day, we're thinking about scale. We'll consider how digital enablers can scale procurement outcomes through our suppliers and look at whether self-guided buying will enable the business to scale quickly as our distributed buyers hope. To make sure you don't miss out on all this live content, register now. And if you're unable to attend in person, as a registrant, you'll get access to all of the recordings after the event. Just go to artofprocurement.com/digital outcomes to find out more.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Friday at 6 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. If you've enjoyed this pod, help us grow and tell your peers to search for Procurement 6 wherever they get their podcasts.